This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. At the class reunion, I subconsciously looked for the girl I hadn't seen in years. My first love. Hey, why hasn't Hailey come? As soon as those words were spoken, the room fell silent. Bro, you don't know she's doing that now, 800 a night. Oh. I lowered my head, unsure of what to say, taking a few bites of my food. Hey bro, don't be sad. I'm not sad, I've got to go. Oh, by the way, does anyone know which place she's working at? On the way to the nightclub, I thought about all the moments I shared with Hailey over the years. Back then I was just a useless poor kid, the kind who was extremely broke. My hometown was a poverty-stricken village, and my family was the poorest in that village. I had to earn money for my tuition and living expenses, and because of my family situation, I was shy and full of self-doubt. I often couldn't afford to eat, and when I was starving, I would go to the cafeteria and eat leftover food that others had left behind. Sometimes people would forget to return their trays, and I would sneak over to grab their unfinished meals. I didn't dare to lift my head while eating, because with so many people in the cafeteria, someone was bound to notice me. I was afraid of seeing pity or disdain in their eyes, and sometimes while eating, tears would fall uncontrollably. But there was no choice, I had to survive. That time I hadn't eaten for 2 days in a row. When I saw her get up from her seat, I rushed over like a hungry wolf. As I raised my head, I saw Hailey holding a Coke, staring at me in surprise. I quickly swallowed the food in my mouth, not knowing what to say. Hailey was with her roommate, both of them frozen in place, glancing at each other, unsure of what was going on. Thanks for picking up my package. I'll treat you to a meal so we're even, she said, then grabbed her roommate and ran off. She returned after a couple of steps. By the way, here's the Coke I bought for you. Drink it slowly, don't choke. As I watched her walk further away, tears once again flowed down my face uncontrollably. When did he help you pick up a package? Just yesterday. I promised him a meal, almost forgot. Hailey quickly walked with her roommate, who looked back at me suspiciously. To be honest, that was the first time someone had shown me kindness in all my life. At that moment, I secretly vowed to repay this kind girl, and that meal of hers would inevitably cause our fates to intersect. In the second semester of my freshman year, I found a stable part-time job as a waiter at a restaurant near the school. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was enough to keep me from living in complete misery. Hailey occasionally came to the restaurant to eat, and every time she did, I would tell the kitchen staff to give her table extra meat. As a result, she came more often. I also found out that she was in the class next door to mine in the same department. This dish is wrong. We didn't order this. This is from me. A no from the boss. Her roommate smiled and teased her. See, Hailey, you're so pretty, people even send you extra food. Okay, thanks to your boss. Hailey agreed, generously taking a bite and saying it was delicious. Hey, I remember your name is Rocky, right? When are you going to help us pick up packages? Yeah, package guy. Don't just pick up packages for Hailey. You guys enjoy your meal. I quickly ran off. I knew they were joking with me. They probably knew about the times I had snuck food from Hailey's tray at the cafeteria. Back then I was still quite shy, and I always took any teasing or goodwill as kindness. When they finished eating and left, I noticed a red stain on Hailey's pants. I knew what it was, but I felt too embarrassed to mention it. I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't just let her go out like that, so I called her. Is something wrong? I stood there feeling like an ant on a hot pan while her roommates burst into laughter. I swallowed my shyness and leaned over to her ear, whispering, "You've got red on your pants." Her face instantly turned red. Hey, what's this package guy? Are you confessing to Hailey? Are you asking Hailey for her Facebook? Stop messing around. She was embarrassed, not knowing what to do. It was a hot day, and all of them were in short sleeves, unable to take off their clothes to cover it up. Wait for me a second. I took off my short sleeve shirt and handed it to her. Use this to cover up. I just washed it, it's clean. What about you? It's fine, I have this one. I pointed to the work uniform I was wearing. Okay, thanks. Let's add each other on Facebook. I'll return it to you after I wash it. I awkwardly stood there, unsure of what to say. She then realized, give me your phone number, I'll call you. Okay. After she left, I held my old flip phone tightly in my pocket, but inside I was overjoyed. I had finally gotten her contact information. What I didn't expect was that when she called me for the first time, it wasn't to return my shirt. Where are you? I'm in the dorm. Come pick me up. Hearing her slurred speech, I suspected she might be drunk and had dialed the wrong number. Do you know who I am? Yeah, the guy who picks up packages. I chuckled. Where are you? When I saw Hailey, she was already completely drunk. I let her sit on a bench and went to buy her a bottle of water. That was when I noticed she was wearing my shirt. It was the short sleeve I had given her, and it was loose on her. A few places that shouldn't have been exposed were just barely visible when she bent down. Where were her own clothes? But I couldn't ask her directly. That would be rude. Did you drink alone? No, with a few friends. What about them? Right, where are they? Lon Jessen. I quickly stopped her from shouting in the street. They probably went to a hotel. Ugh. She started throwing up and I helped her clean up, which gave me a chance to ask her. This shirt is dirty, you should change. Where are your own clothes? I lost them. Lost them. We were playing a game and I lost them. I frowned. What kind of game could make you lose your clothes? Good thing I brought your shirt, hee hee. They didn't expect me to have another one. She probably planned to return my shirt after dinner, but didn't expect to drink so much. Never mind, I'll take you back to the dorm. I lifted her onto my back. She was quite obedient and fell asleep quickly, but she was heavy. When we got to the girls' dormitory, I was stuck. I couldn't go in and the doors were already closed. I didn't know what to do. It's okay, I'll call my roommate. Hailey didn't hold her phone properly and it dropped to the ground, the screen shattering unresponsive. I scratched my head. Now what? It's fine. She pulled out a brand new Apple phone from her bag, still in the packaging. Can you swap the SIM card? I fiddled with it for a while before finally managing to contact her roommate through the new phone. Her roommate first asked the dorm supervisor to open the door, and then gave me a strange look, not sure what to make of it. That's when I realized her old phone was still in my hand. This phone, don't need it, it's yours. You can fix it and use it. I looked at the broken phone in my hand. That was my first ever smartphone. Since then, Hailey and I became officially familiar with each other. She taught me how to apply for Facebook, and she became my first friend on Facebook. When she had free time, she would chat with me, sometimes chatting until late at night, talking about things with her younger sisters. I never found it annoying. When she went out drinking, I would go pick her up, and when we had classes, we would sit next to each other. Other people would look at us strangely, but she said she didn't care and told me not to care either. I took up more part-time jobs just so that I could walk with her or sit beside her in class without making her feel embarrassed. After saving up for a long time, I bought her a necklace, planning to give it to her for her birthday. But on her birthday, a senior also gave her a necklace and personally put it on her. From the gasps of people around, I could tell that necklace wasn't cheap. Rocky, are you here to eat for free? Not going to give Hailey a birthday gift. Some people were trying to make fun of me, and for a moment, I didn't know whether to take out the necklace or not. Stop messing around. Just having Rocky here makes me happy. Hailey came to my defense. I brought it. I handed the necklace to Hailey. Happy birthday. She looked at the box without opening it and carefully placed it in her bag. Thank you. I was grateful to her. From the look of the box, it was either a necklace or a ring, and she hadn't opened it because she didn't want anyone to judge my gift. What's inside? Open it and see. You talk too much. Should I give the gift to you instead? Hailey seemed a little angry, and the girls stopped teasing her, not saying anything more. At the end of the birthday party, Hailey and I slowly walked back to the school. I looked at the moon in the sky, wanting so badly to tell her that I liked her, but I didn't dare. Then I thought, what difference would it make if I said it? If she rejected me, I could just say I was joking. Just when I was about to confess. Do you think that senior who came today, Tony, the one who gave me the necklace, is after me? Those words completely stopped me from confessing. Oh, well, I don't know him, not very familiar. Isn't he quite handsome? Yeah, he's alright. He's pretty rich, and he treats me well, but he's a bit of a spoiled rich kid. Is the phone also from him? Yeah, I posted on my Moments saying I wanted to change phones, and he gave me one I couldn't refuse. I frowned. It seemed like he had also played that stripping game with her. Don't tell anyone that he's after me, nobody else knows. Okay. That day I didn't talk much. My steps were heavy as I quickly walked back to the dorm. Since then, she hasn't chatted with me as much. She didn't need me to pick her up anymore when she went out, probably because she was dating Tony. I thought our relationship would just stay at the level of friends, but who knew it would turn into strangers? It had been a long time, maybe about half a year, I don't remember exactly. One night there were a lot of customers, and I got off work late. On the way back to the dorm, I passed by a tree-lined street where a couple was hugging and kissing. I glanced at them and quickly lowered my head. Stop it, someone's here, the girl said shyly. What does it matter if someone's here? The voice sounded familiar. I looked up and it was Tony, but the woman in his arms wasn't Hailey. When he saw me, he was taken aback. Seeing this scene, I don't know why, but a surge of anger went straight to my head. Do you think Hailey deserves this? What's it to you? Who's Hailey? The man and the woman both looked at me. He's got a girlfriend, Hailey, she's my friend. The girl snorted and turned to leave. What do you mean? He grabbed my collar. You're hurting Hailey, and you don't want anyone to say anything. I pushed his hand away. I know you like Hailey, but can't have her, don't worry. When I'm done with that trash, I'll let you have her, just wait a little. I punched him in the chin, knocking him off balance. You're tough, don't run. That day he called a lot of people, and they beat me up, leaving me covered in bruises. I hesitated for a long time, but in the end I told Hailey about it on Facebook. To my surprise, in the middle of the night, it was Tony who replied to me using Hailey's Facebook. "You little bastard, complaining so fast, let's talk tomorrow." We met in a coffee shop, Hailey, him, and me, the three of us. I admit I had bad intentions. I apologize and I promise I won't do it again. I'll only be good to you from now on. Tony started apologizing to Hailey. "You shouldn't apologize to me, you should apologize to Rocky," Hailey said, tears in her eyes. "How did that poor bastard? Are you out of your mind?" I clenched my fists but controlled myself. "Hailey, he's not worth it. Fuck you, who are you to talk? You're a poor bastard. What hero are you pretending to be? You can't even afford a meal, and you think you're good enough for Hailey. Look at yourself, do you deserve her?" His finger was almost poking my face. "Enough." Hailey stopped Tony's mockery. He shook his head, lit a cigarette, and handed it to Hailey. Hailey pushed his hand away. "Damn." He chuckled and smoked on his own. When did Hailey start smoking? Was she still the girl I knew? "I'm not trying to pursue Hailey. I just want her to know what kind of person you are. I have to go to work now." I got up to leave, but he stopped me. "Explain yourself. What kind of person am I? Sit down and tell me." After he said that, two guys at the next table pushed me back into my seat. "Hailey, I'm apologizing to you now. Can you forgive me? Tell me in front of this poor bastard, can you forgive me?" Hailey cried deeply. "If you can't forgive me, then give me back everything I gave you. The ring, the watch, the phone, the necklace, the clothes, everything. I'll take 20 off and take it back. Oh, and the cash too. The full amount needs to be returned." Hailey looked at him, still saying nothing. What was in her eyes? Was it hate? But it didn't quite look like it. "Hailey, I'll slowly pay you back." Tony slapped me across the face. I wanted to fight back, but they held me down tightly. "Damn, you're everywhere. Who the hell are you? I don't need your help." He then turned to Hailey. "Can you forgive me? Say it. Can you forgive me?" She nodded miserably. When she nodded, something in my heart shattered. "Did you see that? Did you see that? Hailey forgave me. Did you see, poor bastard?" Then in front of me, he kissed Hailey's face, roughly kissed her lips, and looked at me provocatively. Hailey didn't resist, only silently shedding tears. "Can I go to work now?" "Yeah." Tony shrugged, signaling the people behind me to let me go. I took out the SIM card, placed the phone that had been repaired 7 or 8 times on the table, and left without looking back. It's not like I was really seeking revenge or anything. Back then I didn't have the means to get revenge, couldn't fight back, couldn't compete. I just wanted to forget these two people as soon as possible. If I never had to interact with them again, that would be fine. But honestly, I was still a bit heartbroken and wronged, and I was a little mad at myself for being so useless. That night while I was working, I accidentally spilled soup on a customer's clothes. It didn't burn anyone, just got on the clothes hanging on the chair. The guy said his clothes were worth over $5,000 and demanded I pay for them. I didn't have that much money, kept apologizing to the customer, saying I'd have it cleaned, and I was so anxious I ended up speaking in my hometown dialect. The guy slapped me hard across the face and said I didn't need to pay, that the slap was worth $5,000. I couldn't control my emotions anymore and burst into tears. The boss kicked me and told me to go cry outside, not to mess with his business, and then told me I didn't need to come back to work again. I didn't know what to do. A person not too light nor too heavy patted the back of my head. "Iowa, huh?" That sentence was in my hometown dialect. I looked at the person. Short hair, rough skin, a scar from his brow to his cheekbone. "I'm from Iowa. Came out to work, huh? Going to school." "Where in Iowa?" "Elephant Village." "I'm from Three Heads Village too, haven't seen you before." I shook my head, I hadn't seen him either. "Forget it, when I left Three Heads Village, you were probably still a kid." The guy didn't waste time talking anymore. He walked over to the customer who slapped me, waved his hand behind him, and someone handed him a briefcase. He opened it and it was full of $100 bills. He didn't even count it. Probably about 50 or 60,000. "Take it. How much do you think this slap is worth?" The customer was stunned by the display. "Brother, don't do this, I didn't mean it." The guy threw the money on the table, punched him in the back of the head, and the customer instantly foamed at the mouth. A few of his lackeys surrounded him, beating him with fists and kicks. Anyone who tried to intervene was seen as an accomplice and got beaten up too. Peter, calm down." The boss quickly tried to stop him, but Peter slapped the boss aside. "Your shop is done for messing with my brother, just wait." Peter ignored the chaos in the room and dragged me outside. "Kidney, follow me from now on." Peter said that very few people from Three Heads Village ever managed to leave the mountains. Those who did were like brothers, always looking out for each other. In the future, if I met anyone from Three Heads Village. I should help them if I could. He was in the debt collection business and asked if I wanted to join him. I hesitated for a moment. Can you really make money? He smiled. I'll give you 10,000 to spend. If you don't want to do it, consider it a gift from me. If you want, and we can make big money together. At that moment, Tony, that customer, and the restaurant boss's ugly faces kept spinning in my mind. Brother, I'll do it with you. The years I spent working with Peter in debt collection were the best years of my life. To be honest, most of the people who owed money were big shots, powerful bosses. People who used to order me around, but now I could step on their heads. I hardly went back to school, and gradually the school expelled me. Following Peter, I got more ruthless. I started getting scars, developing a tough street image. Along the way, I took the fall for Peter twice, ended up in detention twice. After I got out, I looked even more like a thug. I had my own little gang now, with some guys making money under me. One time I returned to the school and ran into some classmates who had been nice to me before. They all now called me Brother Rocky. Delivery guy, you're back. I turned around. It was Hailey's roommate, the one who had seen me eating like a beast in the cafeteria. I'm back, just came to see. I scratched my short hair. So how's Hailey? She sneered. No contact anymore. She moved out of the dorm and rented a place. Oh, she leaned closer, whispering in my ear. Everyone knows about her now. I heard she just got dumped by Tony, crying and begging him. A person like that isn't worth it. I sighed and smiled. Everyone has their own fate. The music in the bar was loud and chaotic. When Peter first took me to a bar, I wasn't used to it at all, but now I found the atmosphere really comfortable. No need to listen to others, just doing whatever I wanted. It was so freeing. On the dance floor, a short girl with cool clothes and a pretty face was shaking her body provocatively, catching everyone's attention, including mine. I looked closer and saw Tony standing beside her. I walked up to Tony, and for a moment he didn't recognize me. After a couple of looks, he finally figured it out and shouted, "Oh, isn't this the poor bastard?" I looked at the girl next to him. Your girlfriend? Yeah, that Hailey bitch, I don't want her anymore. You can go after her now. I smiled at the girl beside him. Give me a kiss. She stood on tiptoe and kissed me on the cheek, wrapping her arms around my neck and trying to tongue kiss me, but I pushed her away. Tony was stunned, looking at me in disbelief. I pointed to the girl, is my little sister. Her name was Alice, and she worked with us in debt collection. She was ruthless. I handed Alice an empty bottle. Hit him. Without hesitation, Alice smashed the bottle on Tony's head, and he collapsed to the ground, groaning and clutching his head. I lifted his chin, looking at his face covered in blood. It felt satisfying. I had been thinking about this scene for a long time, imagining the arrogant, rich people one day kneeling before me. What about your friends? Fuck you, old man. Don't just curse, call your friends over. He gritted his teeth and made a few calls. The dance floor had emptied out, and only a few bouncers came over, saw it was me, waved and left. I signaled to the DJ to keep the music going and danced with Alice, occasionally stepping on Tony's head, kicking him when I missed. Yes, he was being held down by my guys kneeling on the floor, his head pressed firmly to the ground. To my surprise, Tony had called two groups of people. One group was around my age, about 20 or so. The other group was older, around 58 people in total. Dad, what are you doing here? Tony strained to lift his head and shouted at a middle-aged man in the crowd. If it weren't for Ah-chun calling me, you'd be dead by now. The man looked at me. Friend, let my son go first, we can talk things over. The young people around him were making a racket, pointing steel pipes at me. I don't know when, but Peter had appeared behind me, his arm around my shoulders. Damn, going this big. I grinned, ran into an old enemy. The middle-aged man visibly shuddered when he saw Peter, and quickly jogged over to offer Peter a cigarette. Peter took it, handed it to me, and lit it for me. Your son? Yeah, Peter. My son didn't know any better and offended this brother here. Please show some mercy. Oh, he didn't offend me, he offended my brother. If you want a solution, ask my brother. The middle-aged man turned to me, bowing and nodding. You, and you. I pointed at several familiar faces in the group of young people. They were probably some of the ones who used to bully me. Or maybe I was mistaken, but it didn't matter. You guys each hit him 3 times on the back, then take him away. The middle-aged man looked at Peter. Peter looked around dramatically. What are you staring at me for? Get to it. Peter, please show some mercy. It's fine. Hitting his back won't kill him. The man gritted his teeth. Hit. A few of them took turns beating Tony's back, really going at it, and Tony was crying out for his mom. Next time if you see me, stay the hell away. If you can't avoid me, kneel and call me brother. Don't act tough in front of me. And when eating, sit at the kids' table. Got it. Tony was on the verge of losing consciousness, blood and foam spilling from his mouth. His father quickly stepped in. Got it. After they left, I turned to Peter. Brother didn't expect you to be this awesome. Peter laughed. Feeling better now, let's go, we've got a deal to close. Later, the country cracked down hard on private lending. Peter went in, but didn't drag me down with him. He told me I had taken the fall for him so many times, but this time the burden was too heavy for me, so he let me off and took the hit himself. I gathered Peter's other men, pulled together the clean money, and got into the real estate business. I pretty much washed myself clean, and now I was doing legitimate business. Of course, I wasn't the biggest boss. I still worked for others, just with a higher position in the company. Boss, the night's still young. Good, park somewhere and wait for me. When I saw Hailey again, I almost didn't recognize her. Her face had lost the innocence it once had and had gained a lot of worldly weariness. Her figure was still great, but her makeup was heavy, making her look more mature. Been doing alright these years. I scratched my head, feeling like that shy college boy again. She shrugged. It's just like this, you've seen it yourself. Don't go to work today. Are you going to support me if I don't work? I'll talk to your boss. You're spending the day with me. I lay on the bed in the hotel room, lit a cigarette, and handed her one. She lay in my arms saying nothing. This cheap necklace, why are you still wearing it? She was still wearing the cheap necklace I gave her back in the day. All these years I've received so many gifts, but this one is the real deal. I knew what she meant. She wasn't talking about the necklace being made of real gold, but about how it came from the heart. When your dad was sick in college, why didn't you tell me? What good would it have done to tell you? You were just a poor kid. What could you do? Could you serve me dad's medicine with those plates you carry? So you ended up with Tony. Tears welled up in her eyes. He had money. What else could I do? How's your dad now? He died last month. What about your mom? She went back to her hometown. I took another deep drag of the cigarette, crushed the butt, and tossed it into the ashtray. Back in college, when Hailey's dad got sick, she had gone from a little bourgeois girl to someone desperately trying to earn money to save her father. She had no choice but to be with Tony because he could provide her with money. She knew Tony was just playing around, but there was nothing she could do. After Tony broke up with her, his group of friends persuaded her to become a call girl. She was a college student, so she could make good money. To survive, she had to agree. Her mother almost disowned her when she found out, but she had no choice. She needed money for her dad's treatment, and she had to buy expensive clothes and skincare products. Once her spending habits went up, it was hard to scale back. Years passed, and she stayed in the same line of work, but never managed to save much money. After her dad passed away, her mom completely cut ties with her and went back home, as if she never had a daughter. What are your plans now? No plans. You know this line of work, it's all about youth. How long do you think you can do it? When I can't do it anymore, I'll find an honest man and get married. I tilted her head toward me and made her look at my face. Do I look like an honest man? She cried for a long time. I'm sorry, I'm not good enough for you now. Why? I'm not the person I used to be. It's okay. I'm not the person I used to be either. I'm dirty. The things I did before weren't clean either. Why are you so good to me? I lit another cigarette and the old memories came rushing back. I've been poor since I was little. My family had no education and they didn't understand things like a child's pride. My parents didn't love me much. They just wanted me to make money as fast as I could. I lived like a dog growing up. You're the first person who ever treated me like a human. You cared about my feelings. You cared about my pathetic self-esteem. From that moment, I swore I'd repay you for the rest of my life, no matter what kind of person you became. At our wedding, not many people came. None of her relatives or friends showed up. It was mostly my brothers from my side. That day I was truly happy and she was too. She didn't wear much makeup at the wedding and looked about 7,080 like she did in college. Maybe she wanted to give me the version of herself from college. I put a big diamond ring on her finger, and around her neck was still that cheap necklace I gave her. Who would have thought that our good days would only last for 3 years? One of the projects on our construction site exploded, and my boss was sent straight to jail. As the main person responsible, I lost all my assets. The mansion, the luxury cars, and the designer goods, all sold to pay off debts. I had no choice but to become a small contractor, barely making enough to scrape by. The beautiful life I once promised her, I couldn't give it to her. I'm so useless. I promised I'd take care of her for life. From the days of lavish feasts to now eating simple meals, I thought we could make it through, until I saw her come out of a hotel with a stranger. I slapped her across the face. You're trash. You'll never change. She covered her face and cried, heartbroken. You've had too many good days, haven't you? You can't live the poor life anymore, right? You're used to cosmetics worth thousands a set, but now you can't even use the cheaper ones, right? By the end, I didn't even know how to insult her. I could only point at her, unable to say a word. I just wanted to help because I saw you were struggling. Help me. You think I can't take care of myself? Do you think I need your help? She broke down too, slapping her own face as she grabbed my hand. I pushed her away. I just didn't want to see you suffer her is that wrong? If you cared about me, you wouldn't have gone and sold yourself. What else can I do? I don't know anything else." She crouched in the corner sobbing. She was just like that helpless little girl again. "Why did you marry me? I told you I'm not good enough for you." "So why did you marry me? You shouldn't have." She sobbed there while I sat beside her in my work clothes smoking. People passing by gave us curious looks. She looked like the high-class girl who was reluctant to leave the world behind, while I looked like a weary working-class man. We sat there so out of place yet so naturally. It reminded me of the time in college when we'd sit together during classes. She cried until she was exhausted and I calmed down. I lit another cigarette for her, and she took it resting her head on my shoulder. "Let's get a divorce," she said quietly. The cigarette in my fingers fell to the ground. "Is that it? After the divorce, you're just going to keep selling yourself? Whether I sell myself or not, it's none of your business once we're divorced." Every night we had at least a few exchanges like this. She wanted a divorce, but I refused. I knew she didn't want to drag me down, but there was no way I was going to let her go. "Hailey promised me as long as you quit that line of work, I'll treat you well. We'll live a good life, okay?" She lowered her head, cleaning the dishes and sealing the half bag of noodles before putting it away in the cupboard. "Really, trust me. I'll rise again. I'll go back to the life we had before. I survived those tough days in college. You have to believe in me. You survived, but not me. I really can't take it anymore." I watched her back and didn't know what to say. Yes, she had changed. She was no longer the person she was in college. I understood. When she said she couldn't take it, she wasn't talking about surviving hard days. It was the feeling of me working hard while she stayed home enjoying life that she couldn't handle. I thought this would eventually pass, that we'd get through it, until she pressed a sharp knife to her neck. This time she was very determined. She said if I didn't agree to the divorce, she'd die. The blade broke her skin and blood ran down her arm. "All right, I agree to the divorce, but you have to promise me one thing." Hand in hand, we returned to our old college. Watching the students walking around, it felt like we had merged into them, back to those youthful days. All these years had passed, but the campus hadn't changed much. We reminisced about the small things, where she slapped me, where I gave her a drink. When she was drunk, I carried her to wherever she needed to go. Actually, the first time you carried me, I wasn't that drunk. Back then we were playing games. The losers had to strip. I was too embarrassed to call a friend, so I called you. Now I think about it, none of the people around me back then were good people. I nodded. It's also my fault. If I had been stronger back then, maybe we wouldn't have ended up like this. So when you came, I had to pretend to be drunk and stupid. I didn't want to feel awkward, but I did fall asleep on your back, and it really felt so safe. I smiled, not saying anything, holding her hand tighter. I wished I could hold it forever, never letting go. Senior. We turned around. A college couple approached Hailey. "Senior, could you take a picture for us?" "Sure." Hailey took the picture for them and then thought for a moment. "Why don't you take one of us too?" That's when I realized Hailey and I didn't have a photo together. After the picture, the student asked, "Are you two coming back to visit the campus?" "Yeah, it's been many years. Just wanted to come back and see." "You're lucky you came early. We're moving to the new campus soon. This place will probably be demolished next year." As I watched them leave, skipping along, I couldn't help but feel a little nostalgic. The campus was going to be demolished. When Hailey and I got divorced, she cried in my arms for a long time. In the end, she made the decision to leave. Afterwards, she went back to her old line of work, and I no longer had the right to say a word about it. Years later, with my grit and some support from old friends, I slowly started to rise again. Though I couldn't reach the heights I once did, I was living a good life. I bought a house and a car, but there was no longer the woman I had always dreamed of in my life. I had been keeping track of Hailey all these years. As we grew older, I watched her leave the club, go to a business K, then to a bathhouse, and eventually become a streetwalker. Just as she said, she didn't know how to do anything else. When I wasn't busy, I would wait at the places she worked, following her home after her shift ended. I didn't speak, didn't disturb her. I just quietly followed. I was afraid something might happen to her on her way home. After all these years, I still couldn't forget her. I couldn't forget the kindness she once showed me. No matter what she became, I would protect her because I had sworn to do so. The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.